How do you, so along the way, your views would have changed, but how do you define success today?
You know, that's a great question. And I mean, there are all the obvious answers. Right now, we're growing faster than we ever have. We're growing geographically faster than we ever have, for sure. We're growing in terms of product offerings, and all these things are fabulous and make for really good indicators and metrics, and so we're excited about that. So that there's, and that's a nice feeling after having gone through many years where, you know, you were always happy when there was a win, because at least there was something. So that is great. But there are two answers, I think, in my mind, and maybe a little bit obscure or eccentric. So, but whenever I think of, and it's true when I go into a rental company today and I look at what customers are doing and just learn, I still love, I try to go, whenever I go and see a rental company, I always say, can we go to some locations? Because I just love being there and trying to figure out what's going on. And whenever you want to become more efficient, this is very simplistic, there are two ways to be successful. So if I'm, from where you're sitting, today I'm here, and tomorrow I want to be there. So how do I get there? Well, I want to make that curve as steep as possible, whether it's a growth curve or an efficiency curve or whatever it is. I just want to be as steep as possible. And that's one way to get there, but there's a limit. You can only, you know, depending on what it is, you can only be this steep. And then there's another one, which is I can use pretty big innovation. And that isn't about the curve being as steep as possible, it's about shifting the whole curve, right? So quite often when we go in and we say, let us understand your workflow, how do you do things today? And then we say, okay, here's SmartEquip, let's install this, and now you can replicate that same workflow, you can automate every step. And then we wait for somebody to say, well, wait a minute. If it's all electronic and automated, I don't need this step and this step and that step. So now they're not talking about it's no longer that I can do things faster. I can now actually skip things. I can innovate the workflow. Yeah. And too many times we've gone in and said, you can do that straight away, but they say, whoa, this is how we do it. So you try to let them innovate with all of that. So one of the two bits of success that I think of is what's that moment when you suddenly realize it's not just that they're more efficient, they're starting to do things differently, and it opens up a whole new solution set that didn't exist before. So that's a huge sign of success, and you see it in so many different ways. And the other one is much more simplistic. I remember this happened the first time, I think in 2008. Somebody invited me on a tour because a Swedish company was coming to tour different US companies, and we would go on this tour. This was actually at Sunbelt Rentals. They were hosting, and we were in Charlotte, and we had a rule that we always wear SmartEquip gear if we go anywhere, and I had a long sleeve black shirt, and the sun was pounding, and there was concrete everywhere, so I was just sweating. And this very large gentleman, very tall guy, strong guy, he came around and introduced himself to these Northern Europeans that came in, who next to him looked very small, and he said, how are you? And he was clearly a service guy, sweating up a storm and full of grease and everything else. And then he came up to me and smiled and gave me this big bear hug. You know? And I thought, this is embarrassing. I don't know who this is. And I clearly should. So I apologized. I said, I don't know who you are. I know we've met. And he said, I don't think we've met, but anybody who has that logo on their shirt is my friend. And then this big guy said, my kid now comes with me I used to be the wrench turner, the grease monkey, he said. He actually called me. So now whenever I do overtime or it's on weekends, he wants to come along because he loves the technology I use. It's really changed my life. So those are the things that on a very personal basis, that's very different from the metrics. But those I remember, and there are quite a few of these, those are the big moments.